Hey guys, here we are going to do design number 2, which is the same weave pattern, just adding more colors and more panels because we're going to do a closed face. So what you want to do is just move your valance and your pole covers out of the way. You don't have to remove them, just move them out of the way so you can remove your panels off of your second crossbar. So any panels that you're going to keep for this design, you want to just kind of toss them over the back crossbar so you don't have to bend over to pick them up again. And any panels that you're not using, just toss them on the floor so you can pick them up later and put them away. So this design, we're not going to use the blush, but we are going to leave the burgundy panels because we're going to be adding some other colors to them. So once you remove all the panels you're not going to use, you're going to get the panels that you will be using. I normally just toss them over my arm so I don't have to bend over to pick them up. So this is the coral, and I'm just going to slide them on the top crossbar, the crossbar that's in the front. And then I'm going to follow that up with another one of the burgundy panels that I kind of just tossed over the back crossbar. And just slide that all the way over. And then I am going to follow up with the next color, which will be red. And the reason I'm choosing these colors, honestly, is just so you can see the actual weave pattern on the video. These really isn't a combination of colors that I would use for a design unless it was requested. But I really wanted to see, I wanted you guys to see them interlocking. And for this type of fabric, these are like the most contrasting colors I had. Then you're just going to put another panel of coral right next to that red. And then add your last panel of the, I don't know if it's plum, burgundy, but you're going to add that last one there. And then you're going to take your crossbar and place it back in the crossbar hanger. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other side. Now you're going to go get the remaining panels of your fabric to work your other side. So just like before, I would grab a couple panels, throw them over my arm so I don't have to bend over. And then I would thread them in the same exact order as on the other side. Starting with the coral. As soon as I find the rod pocket. Okay. So I'm going to remove that so I can go in the same order and start with my coral. And I hardly ever really thread a crossbar frontwards, but I just did it this way. I don't know, ease of access, I guess. I normally would do it how I showed you guys earlier. I would nestle the crossbar at the nape of my neck, and that way it feels more secure, and do it that way. And you're just going to continuously thread your panels And you're going to finish it off with the last color of that plum. And then you can kind of see the pattern that's being created. I'm not in love with this color combination, but again, I was doing it so you can see a good contrast of colors. So now you have all of your panels on your crossbar. Okay, so now you're going to go in and kind of evenly disperse your panels. You want to first find your middle. That way you can evenly put, how many you have there? 2, 4, 5 panels on each side. So once you locate your middle, you can use a measuring tape. But like I mentioned before, I normally kind of eyeball it at this point. And once I find my middle, I just would make sure each panel, let's just say the left half, has the same measurement and width. And then I would eyeball it and do the same exact thing on the other side. So to me, I kind of would look at it like it looked like it's between 8 to 10 inches each panel. And that's kind of how I would measure it out. Now that looks pretty even to me. Step back, take a look at it, and when you're all comfortable, you go to the next step. Now this is where you actually get to doing the weaving again like before. So you want to extend each panel out and kind of if you're working on the right side, you want to extend each panel out but kind of swing it to the left. And you're going to do this for each individual panel. It doesn't have to be super straight, but the straighter you have it, the easier it is to weave. Some people actually weave once they raise their once they raise their unit, and they kind of just weave the pattern in and out, in and out. I kind of think that's, the long way, because then you got to straighten it out and it's just too much. So normally this is the way I do it. I just extend all of my panels out, and I extend them out far enough so I have enough room to weave. Then I'll start with my very first panel on the opposite side, and I'll start my crisscross pattern. So if the first panel, I'm going to go over top, second panel I'm going to go under, next panel over top, next one under, and continue all the way over. Now when you take your next panel, you want to do the exact opposite of what you just did. So see how the coral is on top? So you want to take this plum underneath and then continuously crisscross all the way till it's connected with the last fabric on the opposite end. And just toss it on over. Now you can kind of see the weave pattern starting to form. So same thing with the next panel. Go over top, since that plum is underneath. And then you're going to go under the plum, over the red, under the coral, over the plum, and just drop it. Same thing for the coral. You're just going to continuously weave, making sure it's the opposite pattern as the previous panel. And now you're down to your last one. So since that coral goes under, you're going to be certain to go over, then go under, over, under, over, and swing it to the other side. And this is how it would look at the bottom portion. It's not perfect, but all of your panels are in place, just where it should be. So now we are going to just double check the pattern before you begin to raise or anything like that. Make sure everything is crisscross, interlocked it like it should be. And then you're just going to bring your valance back down where it was originally. So the good thing about this is, you don't have to redo it all over because it still is right there where it was. So all you have to do is just fix the valance, fix a couple swoops, make sure it's neat, and then finish it off with your pole covers, and then you are good to go. Now this fabric is the same fabric. It's a Lycra blend, but it is a two-way stretch, and it's a crush, meaning it's textured. So it's not as you can't manipulate it as much as you can with the full-way stretch, but it still is an amazing blend. And it gives like some texture to the design. If I finished it off with just a flat Lycra, it probably would have looked okay, but I really feel like the texture just gave it some added oomph. Now it's time to go up. You want to raise your backdrop. And if you remember, like I mentioned before, when you have a three-piece upright, you definitely want to raise the top portion first. Even though we're not going that high, you always just want to get in the habit of raising your top bar, because if you raise your bottom bar and you get it up there and need more height, you're stuck. So always raise your top bar first. So as you can see, that weave pattern, it's coming through. Okay, so now instead of me having on my fanny pack, I just stuck a couple of these pipe cleaners in my waist so they could still have easy access. And then I'm beginning to tie my panels to the upright. During this step, I'm not looking for things to be perfect. I'm really just trying to get it secure on the upright so I can later go back and perfect my placement. And since this fabric is real lucid and the texture that it is, it's not really a lot of hand techniques as far as the pleating, because it kind of just falls in place, which is why I really love it. So my first piece, I normally always go just above the where the two crossbars meet, like just above I call it a knuckle, but just above where the buttons are, so it can hold the pipe cleaner in place. And then I just reach for each panel and I just let it wrestle right in my hand, and it just kind of falls in place. Then I will secure that to the upright as well. And all I'm doing with the pipe cleaners is just tying it around the fabric and then tying it directly to the pole. No specific way. I don't tie it too tight, because sometimes if your pipe cleaners do have wear and tear, they will pop. So as you pick up your fabric, you just want to make sure that it's not twisted. You don't have to worry about the pleating too tough, because they do, like I said, fall in place, but you definitely don't want your fabric to be twisted all around. And again, like for right now, I'm not looking for them to be placed perfectly. I'm really just trying to secure them to the pole so then I can go back and perfect my placement once everything is there. So that's what I mean by make sure your fabric isn't all twisted around, because it can totally mess up your design. And then that's your last one for that side. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, just trying to get it secure. Then just go to the other side and do pretty much the same thing. Just make sure your fabric is not twisted and get it attached to the upright. Now, if you notice, this one I put just below the little knuckle where the clamps are, because I wanted that way it gives me a visual of which way looks better, a more loose swoop or one that's really swagged high. So that's the reason why I did it that way. Because when you up on the design, you really can't see it until you stand back, especially if you don't have no one helping you. Just fix your fabrics. And attach them to your upright just like so. Now this is the meaning of the closed face, meaning you just don't have any spaces in between your weave pattern. It's all tight and nothing but fabric, like a basket weave. And just like so. Just give it a couple of twists, not too many, because like I said, they can pop. And since you know you're going to be unloosening them to adjust your placements, I just give it like a twist, one twist or two is really fine with me. So as you can see here is a big difference from the left side to the right side. The right side is definitely more romantic. It's more like a flowy swoop, whereas the opposite side is like the swoops are a lot deeper and they go up a lot higher. So now I'm going to go back and take a look at the design to see what direction I want to go in. Sometimes I even take pictures just so I can see it in the device. And now I'm going to check my patterns. Make sure everything is as close to a diamond as possible. And I definitely like things on this end because it's more romantic. It kind of just flows better, especially if it's supposed to be a closed face, meaning the fabric panels are supposed to touch and kind of interlock together. So now I'm just going to make my adjustments and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this is really the part that I really take my time with, like if I'm doing an event or anything like that, because it's really easy and quite fast to just get the fabric up there, right? But this is the part that I really take my time with and just try and look at my pleating, look at my placement, look at pretty much everything, make sure everything's secure, especially with the pipe cleaners, because sometimes they pop. And I'm just at this point trying to make sure everything is polished. So I just want to close up the bottom, make sure there is no gaps there. And this fabric just drapes so beautifully. It's just so simple. So I'm going to kind of check it out, look for any kind of holes where you can see through my fabric, comb through my pleats, make any adjustments needed to be made, and then I start working on the other side. I know that has to come down. So since I am doing this alone, I normally would have to adjust it to where I think it should go, and then I got to stand back and look at it. Normally, if I have someone there with me, I'll just ask them and they'll kind of guide me. Go down, go up, make it wider, something like that. So now I'll look and I see that the other side is lower, so I'll make some adjustments there. And sometimes I will use the actual extension rod to kind of just smooth out any pleats that's in the fabric. And especially things that I cannot reach, this is like the perfect tool. Now I see that big hole right there, that big gap. I'll easily just go in and fix that. Sometimes you don't have to take the entire pipe cleaner off. You can just actually tug at your fabric to kind of make a quick adjustment. If you want it tighter or looser, you can just kind of pull at it. And now I'm going to fix my pole covers, make sure my poles are covered and that I am hiding any fabric that is attached to the upright. Still looking for little imperfections, making adjustments as I go along. Now I'm standing back and looking at the design and seeing what is it I need to fix now. So now I'll go and get my rod again and just kind of smooth things out, make some adjustments. I'm seeing that that looks a little too high, and I just want to push it down a little bit just to kind of even things out. Okay, now it is time to puddle and polish the bottom. So you want to go behind the, or you could do it from the front way. I normally go from behind because it's just, for me, it's easier. But you just want to make sure that all of your excess fabric, especially from your base layer, is kind of kicked to the back. You don't want to just drop it down and leave it bunched up. Then once you have it all pulled to the back, you want to come to the front to kind of just finish it off to make it look neat. It should be kind of like a beeline down the entire backdrop. Then you're going to go and polish up your base, covering up your bases, and make sure you don't just kind of have your fabric just dangling. you know, in front of your backdrop. So you just want to, if you are using a pole cover, you just want to make sure that that is just neatly dispersed on top of all of your fabric. So all you should see is a pole cover, just like that. Then you're going to do the same exact thing on the opposite end. Put all your excess fabric in the back. Kind of bunch it up a little bit so it doesn't look completely flat. And then you're just going to take your pole cover and kind of just neatly cover that stuff up. Just like such. And there is your base. And here is your finished product.